This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
Whoa! Guess who's back, everybody? Guess who's back? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888. Say ESPN. I am coming at you live from Houston, Texas today. Site of the NBA Western Conference Finals being brought to you by Indeed. Look, man. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to talk about here. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about here. Oh, my goodness. Have you seen what's been going on? Have you seen what's been going on? I mean, listen to this. I'm in Houston, Texas, and I'm about, because I was going, let me pause and let me slow down just for a second. I've been going the last 2 days, my apologies. But I didn't take any days off. I was working for ESPN. They had the honchos that be had me contributing to things for the last 2 days that they deemed more important than radio or television. I wasn't on first take yesterday either. They needed me there. They said you're taking off from radio and television, and that's the way it's going to be, and that's why you haven't seen or heard from me pretty much over the last couple of days, at least during the day. But I am back now in full effect. Ready to roar. I can't wait. Look, I'm in Houston, Texas, and I'm going to get into what happened in Game 1 against the Golden State Warriors Monday night, because I wasn't on the air yesterday to talk to you about that. But I have to get into a couple of things. I will be talking about the NBA draft lottery from last night. I definitely will be talking about that. I'll be talking about the legalization of sports gambling and what is imminent and whether or not it's beneficial or not to the world of sports. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. Michigan State University has settled this whole Larry Nassar fiasco, that gymnastic coach, that no good, disgusting, despicable pedophile that needs to be thrown under the jail with a bunch of sodomites. That dude, because of all the stuff that he caused, all the pain and suffering, $425 million of the settlement to be paid now. $75 million will be held in reserve. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that Michigan State University will have to pay Larry Nassar victims $500 million in settlements. We'll discuss that as the show progresses a little bit later on today. But the first order of business is what transpired in Boston last night. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to sit here, because they deserve it. I would love to sit here and give Boston so much credit, all the credit in the world. Al Horford looks great. You got a backcourt that outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 41-3, a starting backcourt of Jaylen Brown and Terry Rozier. You see what they do energy-wise. You see what they do collectively. You see what they do defensively. You see this exceptional coaching of Brad Stevens. And the temptation is to sit up there and look at all of this and just draw the conclusion that the Boston Celtics are a very superior team. Here's the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we already knew they were a better team. We already knew they were a superior team. We already knew they were a deeper team. We already knew they were younger, they were faster, they were more athletic. What we believed, however, despite what the Boston Celtics brought to the table, is that LeBron James would have an answer. That the greatest player in the world, who's 270 pounds, who's a locomotive coming at you, that somehow, some way, he would find a way. He would find a way to deal with the Boston Celtics. Because without Kyrie Irving, without a Gordon Hayward, they were a team devoid of stars, too wet behind the ear, breath smelling like Similac. Somehow, some way, they would find a way to succumb to the greatness of LeBron James. But that has not happened. These young Boston Celtics are rough riders. They're athletic. They're young. They've got fresh legs. They don't tire easy. They come at you. They got a boatload of heart. They ain't scared of a damn soul. And so when we look at it from that perspective, I'm here to tell you something right now. Cleveland is in a world of trouble. Cleveland is in a world of trouble. LeBron James' supporting cast looks like an absolute joke outside of Kevin Love. J.R. Smith, for all intended purposes, should be utterly ashamed of himself. 0 for 7 shooting, 0 points as a starting shooting guard. Now, I've been lamenting all year long how he didn't average in double digits. And I like J.R. Smith. I like J.R. Smith, but my God, has he fallen off. That is problematic. That's point number one. Point number two, whatever adjustments the Cleveland Cavaliers try to make, Brad Stevens counters. He starts small. Or rather, starts big, because Al Horford takes the ball inside against Cleveland's smaller lineup. Jaylen Brown does the same. And as a result, Ty Lue feels compelled to go big and insert Tristan Thompson and Jeff Green into the lineup. Once that happens, all of a sudden, Brad Stevens goes that way. Puts Aaron Baines in the game, has Al Horford in the game. Plus, he's got them young thoroughbreds. And Cleveland can't keep up. But more importantly than anything else, the toughness factor. And this is where I look at LeBron James, despite the absence of a supporting cast, and I say, what the hell are you doing? You're 270 pounds. Take the damn ball inside. Attack in the interior. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm of the mindset that this is their only hope. This is their only hope. Cleveland is at a point right now where if LeBron James does not take the ball inside and attack on the interior and stop shooting them damn fall-away jump shots, we are of the mindset right now that LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to get up out of here. Boston's going to finish them off. They better do something, because the stuff that they're doing right now ain't working. And that is the reality of the situation that we're looking with as we speak. There is no way around this. There is no way around this. They got to figure out something. And if they don't figure it out, it's going to be a problem. We can slice it any way we want to. That's what all of this stuff comes down to when you're looking at LeBron James. He's got to take over. And I'm not talking about 42 points and triple. He had 42, 12, and 10. Some people will sit there and say, Stephen A., what's your problem with that? My problem is not with the numbers. It's how the numbers came about. My problem is with the fact that you've got to attack on the interior. Now, obviously, on the baseline, when he was driving baseline, lost a little control of the ball and ran into Jason Tatum, where Jason Tatum's his shoulder, hit LeBron James right on the jaw. He wasn't concussed. He went through the protocols, but nevertheless, he certainly wasn't himself. And LeBron James relied too heavily on fall-away shots. That ain't going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. Even when you do that against Cleveland, Boston will give you those shots all day long. You got to facilitate getting production from somebody else. George Hill, just asleep at the wheel, absent, ain't doing a damn thing. J.R. Smith has been a disaster. Kyle Korver wants to shoot for some reason. Tyronn Lue doesn't have him in the game nearly as much as he should. Tristan Thompson is limited, which is why Marcus Morris could get in his face. He could do that. He could score an and one and scream in Tristan Thompson's face, get Tristan Thompson all sensitive, because you ain't worried but so much about Tristan Thompson offensively. And Boston doesn't seem to be worried about Cleveland at all. And this is the real story to take away from this. Boston is actually a better opponent to represent the East than Cleveland. Whoever Boston goes up against in the NBA Finals, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be a struggle. You can book the house on it. You can bet the house. Boston ain't going down easy to anybody. Not Golden State, not Houston. And oh, by the way, forgive me for saying this, but you know I believe it's going to be Golden State, right? Now, I'm in Houston, Texas, and I certainly don't want to poo-poo anything, and I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I really, really don't. I think that Houston is a great team. I think James Harden is the MVP. I think D'Antoni is the coach of the year. I think CP3 is a future Hall of Fame point guard. He's phenomenal. But I tried to tell y'all, no matter what you saw against Minnesota in the first round, no matter what you saw against Utah in the second round, Golden State's a different animal. I tried to warn y'all. Everybody talking and acting like this is just another team. They're not just another team. And by the way, they're not even just the reigning defending champions. These, ladies and gentlemen, these Warriors are a collection. I'm talking about with guys on the same team. They're a collection of the greatest snipers we've ever seen in a game. I mean, what team can you think of had 3 guys in their starting lineup that could shoot the way Steph, Clay, and Kevin Durant can shoot? Are y'all not paying attention? Are y'all not seeing what's going on? Do you not understand what this is all about? That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. I'm just looking at Houston right now, and I got a bunch of problems with what I'm seeing from Houston. First of all, James Harden exploded. He had 41. We get all that. But you ran a lot of isolation plays. Didn't I tell y'all for most of that isolation wasn't going to work against the Golden State Warriors? Have I not tried to tell y'all that? Did I not say to y'all that ain't going to work? Ladies and gentlemen, you take Steph Curry off the court, and nobody that Golden State puts on the floor is shorter than 6'6". Nobody. What do you think this is? That's not going to work. You got big dudes who can defend, all with a high basketball IQ. They know when Houston is penetrating from the left wing, they're looking to hit somebody in the right corner. They know when Houston is penetrating from the right side, they're looking to hit somebody in the left corner. They know that maybe they didn't know it would happen 28 times, but they knew that for the most part, when James Harden had the ball in his hands, he was going to use more than 10 seconds holding the ball, which he did 28 times. Kevin Durant, to give you perspective, only did it 6 times. If you're holding the ball for more than 10 seconds on 28 occasions, guess what you're doing? You're allowing Golden State to rest while they're on the court. They don't even need to sub. All you need to do is one guy's guarding Kevin Durant, the other guys are spies. And you're standing still, taking deep breaths and conserving your energy because they're not moving the basketball and thus making you move and working you on the defensive side of the ball. They're not doing it. So as a result, if you're Steph, if you're Clay, if you're Kevin Durant or somebody, you ain't worried about them. You're not worried about it. This is what has happened. This is what cannot be ignored. See, if you see, and then to hear Mike D'Antoni. See, this is my problem with Mike D'Antoni. I like him, but then I end up sounding cruel because I got to get on him just the same way I used to get on him in New York, just the same way I used to get on him when he was in L.A. Mike D'Antoni, we are what we are. There's no need to change. Well, then damn it, why are you coaching? Now, this is my coach of the year, ladies and gentlemen. I think Mike D'Antoni is an outstanding coach. But there's a difference between being outstanding and being a champion. And there's a reason he's not a champion. What are you talking about? We are what we are. We're not changing anything. Well, then why are you coaching? What are you there to remind and echo what you've been saying all year long? And that's it? Not making any adjustment according to the competition that you're going up against? Utah and Minnesota are not Golden State. You don't sit up there and say, we just going to be who we are against Golden State like they Utah. They're not Utah. Draymond Green is not Rudy Gobert. Kevin Durant is not Ingles. Donovan Mitchell, as special as he is, he's my rookie of the year. He is not Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. What do you mean you're not changing? What do you mean you're not adjusting? What is that supposed to mean? Why are you coaching? Let somebody else coach then. You got to make the necessary adjustments. You got to move the basketball. You can't stand still. You got to push the ball up the floor. You got to push pace and tempo, which is something that D'Antoni was addicted to. That's the kind of stuff that Klay Thompson was complaining about against New Orleans in game 1 of their semifinal series because he was a little tired from New Orleans running them up and down the court. Well, you're tired of New Orleans doing it. Imagine how tired you could get if Houston did it. That's what you have to do if you're D'Antoni. Push the ball, push the pace, spread the floor, share the basketball. And James Harden, ain't no problems with you shooting the amount of times you're shooting. Just don't take more than 10 seconds to do it. Don't hold the ball. Don't give them a chance to rest. Make them put Nick Young and David West and Sean Livingston and JaVale McGee into the lineup. Make them play them people because your starters need rest. That's what you do. In this series, that's what you absolutely have to do. I don't understand D'Antoni when he says he's not, we are who we are. We're going to make those. We ain't going to make any adjustments. What are you talking about? You better. Because I got news for y'all. And I want to state this for the record right now. I will not disrespect the Houston Rockets by claiming they're going to get swept. I believe these boys are too gifted for that, and they got too much pride. The combination of the two, it should not happen. But I'll be damned if I don't change my mind if they lose tonight. Houston Rockets got to win game 2 tonight. If the Houston Rockets do not beat the Golden State Warriors in game 2 tonight at the Toyota Center, ladies and gentlemen, they might get swept. They might get swept. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't believe it's going to happen. But that's because I believe they're going to win tonight. Houston's got to win tonight's game. Houston's got to win tonight's game. And the fans in Houston, you got to show up. You got to show up and you got to spearhead. You got to inspire these brothers. You got to do something extra. I mean, damn it, order some Pizza Hut. Do something. Figure it out. You got to do something. This crowd is packed inside the Toyota Center. They roared at the start of the games. And I know that Golden State made it hard for you, but you got to figure it out. Because the Houston Rockets going to need all the help they can get. And oh, by the way, let me also make sure to say this. It's a big night for Chris Paul, too. Chris Paul led the team in rebounding in game 1, had 11 rebounds, 23 points, 11 rebounds, about 3 or 4 assists. He's going to need to do more than that. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about just numbers. I'm not talking about just this play. I'm saying that Chris Paul might have to commit insubordination. Ignore Coach D'Antoni and insert what he believes is necessary himself. Because this notion that you can't make adjustments, nonsense. Trevor Ariza does not need to be defending Steph Curry. Steph Curry moves without the basketball. He runs around a lot of picks. If you're a guy like Trevor Ariza, not only are you expending energy, but you're probably going to get yourself in foul trouble just like you did in game 1 because of the contact that you're subjected to by chasing him around. Trevor Ariza should be on Kevin Durant. You know why? Because Kevin Durant don't need all of that. All Kevin does is put his backside on you, stretch them long arms of his and calls for the ball. And then he tries to take you one-on-one. That's all Kevin Durant does. Now, it's going to be unstoppable, and he's going to get his, and there's little to nothing that you're going to be able to do about it, and you're going to have to get over that. But please understand, when we're talking about Kevin Durant, that's what we're talking about here. If you're Trevor Ariza, yes, he might scorch you for 40. But guess what? It won't get you in foul trouble in the process. Kevin Durant's just going to shoot over you. That's what he does. So if you're chasing Steph, you're in more likelihood, you're prone to getting into more foul trouble chasing Steph than you would be defending Kevin Durant. And since it's important to keep Trevor Ariza on the floor because he plays on both ends, you don't put him on Steph, you put him on Kevin Durant. And just take what he's going to give you to the best of your ability. Because at least you'll be in the game in the fourth quarter when it counts, as opposed to being mired on the bench because you're in foul trouble, which is what happened to Trevor Ariza in game 1. So those are the kind of things that you got to watch out for. This is CP3 that's going to have to do the thinking. This is CP3 that may have to commit insubordination. D'Antoni is a damn fine coach who knows basketball. But he has a belief system where his stubbornness can end up getting the best of him. This is the same Mike D'Antoni that didn't want a defensive coordinator when he was in Phoenix. And Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors back then, was his general manager in Phoenix. Steve Kerr wanted him to have a defensive coordinator. He wanted him to have somebody to focus on the defensive side of the ball because he realized he couldn't win championships doing it D'Antoni's way. D'Antoni was resistant. He didn't want it. And by the way, that assistant he did not want was Tom Thibodeau. That's who he didn't want. So Tom Thibodeau ultimately goes to Boston under Doc Rivers. And what do? They win a championship and they go to two finals in 3 years. This is what happened. And so we got to pay attention to that and understand that D'Antoni's stubbornness may indeed get in the way. Because of this belief, we're going to do it this way. Don't worry about hacking a foul and sending somebody to the free throw line. We don't want to let him score. It's about pacing. And if you let him score, it continues the pace that we want to employ. That's D'Antoni. He did it in Phoenix. He did it in New York. He did it in L.A. He's done it in Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, that would work against most teams. That ain't going to work against the Golden State Warriors. Trust me on this, please. Trust me. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show in a minute. Remember, betting in the world of sports. Is this a good thing? The impact it'll have on the world of sports. The impact it could have on Sin City and beyond. Stay tuned. Stick around. Pay attention. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him, "Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash." His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Your boy, yours truly, the one and only Stephen A. Smith here with you. I am live from Houston, site of tonight's Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals between the Rockets and the Warriors. I'll be covering it for the 6 o'clock Sports Center plus post-game on Sports Center as well. By the way, my Instagram, my Instagram page, Instagram.com / Stephen A. Smith or, at Stephen A. Smith. I've got a question for you there. I posted a question. Does LeBron James even want this anymore? Does he even want, has anybody contemplated the notion that LeBron James might be of the mindset, hey, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try. I'm not going to lose on purpose. But you know what? Why go back to the NBA Finals just to have a 6th NBA Finals loss on my resume? I'm already being praised for getting the team this far. I'm in my 8th consecutive conference finals. That's one question right now. I posted it on Instagram. And you go to Instagram.com at Stephen A. Smith, and you can answer that question. Because I'm of the mindset that, you know something? You're laughing after a loss, after your defense looked the way it looked, looking like straight garbage in the second half and what have you. He might be ready to go home. He might be ready to go home. And listen, I said this last week on First Take, my television show that comes on ESPN. Every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time to 12 noon. I said, look, not having Kyrie, LeBron can afford to lose to Boston. See, people say, no, because they're supposed to be worse without Boston. That's not the point. If everybody's looking at your supporting cast and recognizing that you don't have one, and it's reminding everybody of what life was like for you in 2008 or 2010 when you were with the Cavs and had no help, and this squad reminds you of that before you decided to take your talents to South Beach, why would they blame you for leaving now? And why should you want to go to another NBA Finals when everybody and their mother knows you ain't beating the Warriors? Unless you believe Houston's going to beat them, which most people are not feeling that way right now. LeBron don't want to lose another NBA Finals. He doesn't want 6 NBA Finals losses on his resume. That's what I believe. But that's just me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Always great to hear from my man Carlton in Tampa. You're live with Stephen A. Buddy. Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing well, but you are getting soft in your middle age here, Stephen A. I'm going to explain that in a minute. But first, can we actually identify why it's got to be just awful being a Cleveland Cavalier playing basketball with LeBron James, okay? Every game, if it doesn't go LeBron's way, you get blamed for it. In other words, all day, all this morning, all I hear is LeBron doesn't have a supporting cast, poor LeBron, all of this nonsense. But if somehow you put forth max effort and you win, all the credit goes to LeBron. So let me give you some stats that people aren't talking about today, Stephen A. Okay. LeBron had another 6 turnovers. He's got turnovers in the first 2 games against the Celtics, which is only one less than the whole Celtics.
Hold on, Carlton. That's point number 1, which is very accurate. You haven't even counted the amount of times he refused to run back on defense. Keep going.
Oh, I'm getting to that, Stephen A. It's 5-on-4 half the time because LeBron James is either chirping at the refs or lollygagging it. Do you know that the 4 starters on the Celtics who LeBron could be covering, because he's not going to be covering 6'2" Terry Rozier. So the other 4 guys, they shot 61% last night. 61? Because LeBron's guarding nobody on the defensive end of the court. LeBron is a minus 41 for the first 2 games. So yeah, he'll put up his triple-double and he'll stand there while the Celtics are lighting it up. I mean, this is a joke, and he gets no criticism for this. None. He disappears on the defensive side.
Well, you know that that's a valid point defensively, because I should have brought that up more myself. But my focus was on the fact that you're 270 plus pounds. Your only hope is to take these boys in the post. Go down low. These damn fall away jumpers he's jacking up. It's driving me crazy, Carlton. And I've been I've been preoccupied with that. I've been preoccupied with that a little bit because offensively, I'm looking at a J.R. Smith and a George Hill get outscored 41-3 by Boston's backcourt, and I just think that's an abomination.
Again, Morris, Horford, Tatum, and Brown shot a collective 61%. They're not guarding anybody. The Celtics have scored 215 points in the first 2 games. They're not LeBron is literally at midcourt half the time while his rest of his team is playing 5-on-4, and he gets plus he shot 50% from the free throw line. You know, if he'd made let me play devil's advocate with you, Carlton, for a second. Is he not obligated? I mean, not obligated, but isn't it smart for him to conserve his energy when you consider the fact that you've got guys on the offensive end of the floor that can't do anything, and you have to do everything for them offensively? What about those who will support LeBron by saying that? Stephen A. Not to that extent. He's at least got to make an effort on the defensive side. Because what good is it if he makes some spectacular move on the offensive side, and then the Celtics get a wide-open bunny that just negates what he just did? What good is that, Stephen A? It's no good whatsoever, especially since the Celtics are hitting tons of threes. So you're going down by a point every time if LeBron is hitting some spectacular 2, but then a Celtic is wide open by 15 feet and has basically a free throw 3-point shot, for God's sake.
Okay.
I mean, that's what's happening, and nobody's bringing it up. No, everybody's talking, oh, poor LeBron, he got a triple-double, he got 40 points.
I'm not going to be accused of that. I've been getting on them myself, but you are right. I should say more about his defensive lapses. I'll give you credit for that. What's your second point?
Lapses, disappearance. The guy doesn't play any defense whatsoever. I mean, other than that. But I'm going to tell you why you're soft, Stephen A.
Okay, go ahead.
You can put me in a room with Bill Belichick for 20 years, and I'm not going to soften my stance. You spend a few minutes with Jerry Jones, and now you're becoming a cowboy apologist or something?
Hold on, you did not hear me say apologist. You did not hear me say that. What I said was, being with Jerry Jones yesterday, he actually is a nice guy. I got to stay away from him because he was such a nice guy. And I want to hate on the Cowboys a hell of a lot more than I'm hating on them. That's what I said, Carlton. Don't mince my words.
Well, Lane Johnson is my new hero because he trashed the Patriot way, and he's 100% right about that. The Patriot way is Bill Belichick sitting his best defensive player because he's got a personal vendetta against him and losing the Super Bowl. The Patriot way is trying to smear Malcolm Butler on his way out, just like he did Jamie Collins on his way out to Cleveland. The Patriot way is cheating your way to multiple Super Bowls. And Bill's been caught twice, and his offensive coordinator, when he got a head coaching job, got caught once. That's the Patriot way. So Lane Johnson is 100% right about the Patriot way is a bunch of nonsense. Stop kowtowing to the Patriots, and you do not weaken your stance against the
I will not weaken my. I will not. That will never happen, Carlton. I've spent my life hating the Cowboys, and nothing's going to change in that regard. I was just saying Jerry Jones is kind of a nice guy. That's all I was trying to say. But I got to go. I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Lots of calls that are on the line. Definitely going to get into that. We're continuing talking about the NBA Plus. I asked a question on my Instagram account. I'd like you all to go there and respond. I mean, when you look at LeBron James right now, you got to ask yourself this question. Is it possible that he doesn't even want this anymore? Is it possible that LeBron has no problem losing in these conference finals, because that will ensure that he won't lose another NBA finals, which is his sixth. If he loses 6 NBA finals, only 2 people in NBA history will have lost more NBA finals. That would happen to be Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. Think about that for a second and get back to me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Back to your calls in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
47 minutes past hour number 1 back here in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Just download the free Vivid Seats app today to get your tickets. You know, when I threw out that question on my Instagram page, does LeBron James even want this anymore? Okay? Got a lot of responses. Let me just read some of them to you. Just Sully, 22. He writes on my Instagram account, how can you question a dude that has been in the league for 15 years if he wants it? Of course the man does. Anyone who's played competitive sports knows that is the thing you're chasing. Winning. Guy, GUI_J Sales, JSALES. He writes, LeBron wants to set records in his career. This is the only reason that makes the king keep going. P.S. Never will be MJ. R.D. Hicks, 420, writes, LeBron wants out. He obviously wants to win, but with what's around him, he won't. He'll be going to L.A. or Philly. I actually believe you there. I think it's L.A. or Philly myself, not Houston. Damian Smith 6 writes, after dropping a triple-double, he obviously does, but he ain't enough. R.J. Baker 16, he writes, the world don't want another Cavs Warriors beatdown. Neither does LeBron. Don't you want to see how hard the Celtics can make it for the Warriors or Rockets? I do. R.G. Baker 16, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think the Boston Celtics are going to make the NBA Finals very interesting unless LeBron comes back and he goes berserk. Unless he goes berserk, Boston look like they're going to win the series. But they're a different team on the road. Let's keep that in mind about the Boston Celtics. And if LeBron wins 2 straight in Cleveland and goes back to Boston for a Game 5 with momentum, whoa. But if Boston wins any one of these games, 3 or 4, this series is over in 5 and Boston's going to the finals. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. LJ in Houston, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, man. How are you?
Doing great, Stephen A. I completely agree with what you said about D'Antoni, with his stubborn mentality of saying they're not going to change what they've been doing all year. Mm-hmm. But now is the time to change, because the isolation offense is not going to work against that team. Right. Even if you double-team Kevin Durant when he has the ball, you still have 2 snipers on the wing that can get you points. So my question to you is, what can the Rockets do, Stephen A.? What options do they have?
Well, first of all, I believe you're going to lose no matter what. Not tonight's game, but I think you're losing the series. But having said that, to answer the question directly, here's what I will tell you gives them an improved shot. D'Antoni doesn't need to be coaching. Chris Paul needs to be coaching this team on the floor. Chris Paul has a sense of what you need to do and when you need to do it. That's number 1. Number 2, don't have anybody on Steph Curry but CP3. All that damn switching and stuff, be careful about that, because you'll find yourself in matchups you don't want to be in. That's number 2. Number 3, make sure Trevor Ariza is on Kevin Durant, because he's not going to get in foul trouble that way. Number 4, James Harden can shoot all he wants to. I've got no problem with that. He cannot hold the ball for more than 10 seconds 28 times. That can't happen, LJ. He's got to give up the rock. They've got to move the basketball, if for no other reason, to make Golden State defend and preoccupy them and make sure they're expending energy. You've got to be able to do that. If Mike D'Antoni is all about pace, right? If he's all about pace or play, LJ, then isn't he defeating his own cause by not making sure that the pace is executed? Is he not doing that, LJ? So it don't make any sense.
I completely agree.
He's got to push the ball. He's got to push the ball. And he's got to make Golden State have to work on the defensive end of the floor. You got to set those picks. You got to keep moving the basketball. You've got to get everybody involved, even if they ain't going to shoot. Use them as decoys, damn it, and make sure that these guys are touching the ball so Golden State has to play defense. They have to guard. That's what he has to do.
What about going into the bench more? We haven't seen Joe Johnson. Ryan Anderson played a little bit.
There is no excuse. Going into the bench? There is no excuse for Joe Johnson not getting any minutes. Joe Johnson was brought here because the dude doesn't panic. He's ice under pressure. He can shoot the basketball. By the way, having him on the floor instead of Capella pulls Draymond Green away from the basket because if Joe Johnson is out there, you have to guard him. You have to guard him. And Joe Johnson's 6'8", man. Put him on the floor. He's not Clint Capella. He can't play above the rim. But Clint Capella ain't a threat away from the basket the way Joe Johnson is. You got to put him in there. You got to put Gerald Green up in there. Let them play. Let Gerald Green play more than 60 minutes. Let Joe Johnson get some time. He can't be on the bench for the entire game like he was in game one. That's nonsense. Makes no sense, LJ. Appreciate the call, man. Got to go. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll continue talking NBA conference finals. Plus, where's LeBron James going to end up? Philly, L.A., Houston. We'll definitely get into the sports gambling story that's been circulating and more in a minute. Stick around. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Coming at you. Don't touch that dial.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Come to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio and Sirius XM. Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. We're live from Houston for the NBA Western Conference Finals, brought to you by Indeed. Used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Also, get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join and start saving 5 cents a gallon a day. Plus, the 2018 NFL schedule has been out for a few weeks now, and the time is now to jump on tickets. Vivid Seats has you covered. Download the free Vivid Seats app today to get your 2018 NFL tickets. Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Lots of stuff to continue to get into. We'll get into the NBA draft lottery that took place last night. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Make no mistake about it. Going to get into Des Bryant in just a little bit as well, because he made news for all the wrong reasons. We've got to discuss that as well. But the one thing that I wanted to discuss was the ruling the ruling from the other day that came down from the Supreme Court, in which they basically let everybody know that, you know what, gambling in the States is going to be imminent. Gambling throughout the United States of America. It's going to be imminent. Make no mistake about it. It's coming. Because essentially what they did was give states the right to vote on whether or not they wanted to legalize gambling in their respective states. That's essentially what happened. We don't have to all get into the minutia of what transpired. That's what this comes down to. And because that's what this is coming down to, make no mistake about it, the state of New Jersey, is going to spearhead all of this. They're going to have gambling in the states. It's already in about 4 states right now, Nevada and Oregon and Maine and stuff like that. And we get in Delaware, I believe. It's going to be throughout the United States. Now, for the sports league, it's going to elevate the value of franchises. It's going to bring more eyeballs to the television screen for people to watch what's going on, because they're wagering on it from a legalized perspective even more. And as a result, because of that, television ratings are going to benefit. Sports leagues themselves are going to benefit. I don't know if they'll legitimately pull off getting a percentage of the wages being bet upon by their on their respective sport, like Adam Silver for the NBA wanted to, the commissioner, when he said he wanted a 1% stake of all wagered bets. I don't think that's going to happen. I really, really don't. But in the end, what it comes down to is that, ladies and gentlemen, this is long overdue. You got fantasy sports going on. You got people wagering illegally on various sports and what have you. You're now, the minute you went in business with the fantasy sports leagues, it's a wrap. Because you're talking about legalizing gambling in a way that generates billions of dollars for local economies. Nobody's turning that down in this day and age. Nobody's turning that down. And everybody just needs to get used to it and get off their sanctimonious horses. And that would especially be the NCAA, because this is coming. And you're just going to have to deal with it. You're just going to have to deal with it. There's no way around it. So I support it. I don't have a problem with it. I understand it. And if people are not disciplined enough to know not to gamble away their fortunes and what have you, shame on them. But a government can't be all about protecting everybody from themselves all the time. Sometimes it's about individual responsibility. And you got to know better. You got to know when to hold them. Don't let me get Kenny Rogers on, y'all. You got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. You know, y'all didn't think I knew a little country music, did y'all? But it's true. Yes, Stephen A. Smith is that diversified. My point is, this is what the deal is. Everybody don't know that. And in the end, when you got fantasy sports, gambling's going on anyway. You got NCAA March Madness and people in their office pools. What the hell do you think that is? They're brackets, always the brackets. Everybody knows. So let's stop fooling ourselves. Let's stop playing these games and acting like this didn't exist all along. It did. Now we're about the business of legitimately profiting off of it. And it is what it is. Just deal with it. And if it elevates the value of franchises, if it elevates viewerships and listenerships and beyond, it benefits a multitude of industries, which ultimately benefits the customers. Because it benefits the local economy. And that way, there are a lot of things that you can do to help folks out there that are less privileged than, dare I say, some others. Revenue talks, money talks. And speaking of money, I got something else on my mind that I had this temptation to speak to y'all about. Totally different subject, but it's necessary before I get back into the NBA playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, you might have missed this, but Mr. Tepper, David Tepper, former minority owner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to the reports, he's about to become the new majority owner for the Carolina Panthers of the National Football League. You remember, Jerry Richardson, owner for the Carolina Panthers, promised to step down, sell the team after last season because his name was associated with, let's just say, unsavory behavior. Some inappropriate words, inappropriate actions from an owner as it pertains to women. NFL didn't want any parts of that. Jerry Richardson's 80-year-old man is walking away. So this kid, David Tepper, is going to be the new owner for the Carolina Panthers, according to the reports. I think it's a mistake. I have nothing against Mr. Tepper whatsoever. And I want to emphasize that. He hasn't done anything wrong to me. It's not about that. What it's about is this reality, okay? And this reality simply cannot be ignored. The fact of the matter is that this gentleman has been on the record going off about Donald Trump. Next owner for the Carolina Panthers. He once called Trump the father of lies. That's what he said. Okay? The Panthers announced today, actually, that a definitive agreement has been signed to sell the team to Tepper. Washington Post Mark Mass reports the sale price to be approximately $2.2 billion. If he's approved by the finance committee, then he will sail through, a high-ranking official with one NFL team told the Washington Post. Tepper is the founder of the hedge fund firm Appaloosa Management and is believed to be a billionaire many times over. He began his career as a credit and securities analyst at Equibank in Pittsburgh before getting an MBA at Carnegie Mellon, according to the Charlotte Observer, and later worked for Goldman Sachs. Appaloosa management found success during the financial crisis by betting that banks would make a turnaround, buying Bank of America and Citigroup shares in a move that ultimately earned the firm a reported $7 billion in profit in 2009. Forbes estimated that as of May 2018, Tepper is worth $11 billion, calling him arguably the greatest hedge fund manager of his generation. Tepper keeps a set of brass testicles in his office, according to a 2010 profile in the New York Magazine. He grew up near Pittsburgh in a Jewish household, the middle of 3 children, helped pay his way through college at the University of Pittsburgh by stacking books at a campus library. The Observer reported. So we know he's a minority stakeholder in the Steelers. And he was never afraid to criticize President Trump. On the eve of his election in 2016, he delivered a scathing condemnation of Trump in an interview with CNBC, citing questions about Trump's lack of a strong philanthropic background. During a financial crisis during Sandy, not one dime, Tepper said, saying he was active in philanthropic circles and organizations and did not believe Trump gave to any of them. You can't tell me this is a charitable, generous person. He said he believed Trump was dishonest about his charitable giving. He said, listen, Trump masquerades as an angel of light, but he is the father of lies. And that was just a couple of things that he said. Now, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China, figuratively speaking? Here's the problem. The National Football League clearly have been on the defensive. The National Football League clearly does not want the whole Colin Kaepernick controversy revisited. His willingness to kneel and protest in that fashion and the residual impact that it ultimately had, one would argue divided the sports nation. You had minorities everywhere and a lot of folks who were not minorities, completely in support of Colin Kaepernick, who was only speaking out against racial injustice and inequality and police brutality. But the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in my opinion, on a clear mission to exact vengeance against NFL owners who would not let him in their good old boys club back in 2014 when he wanted to purchase the Buffalo Bills, and they said no, which provoked him to run for the presidency. That man sat up there and turned that Kaepernick issue into an issue of patriotism. Talking about he'd fire all of those SOBs, all of them. As a result, he turned the eye of the storm against the National Football League. Because over 62 million people voted for him. And I got news for y'all out there. If you think everybody is unhappy with the policies that he has signed in favor of, you're living under a rock. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. There are tens of millions of people who love the ground this man walks on, no matter how others feel about him. And a lot of them happen to be football fans. And a lot of them had a problem with the National Football League exactly because of what Trump wanted them to have a problem with, which was patriotism. He turned it into something that it wasn't. Now, why am I qualified to sit up there and say, oh, he was trying to exact revenge against the owners? Because I was on the phone with Donald Trump back in 2014. At which time he told me, if they don't let me own this team, to hell with it. Maybe I might run for president. Those were his exact words to me. I'm telling you what I know. So we understand what this is about. And as a result, because he changed the narrative, you're the National Football League in defense mode, having to ward off the shrapnel of criticism that you were receiving because of Kaepernick's protest. What did you do? You sat up there and gave $89 million to a players coalition, Anquan Bolden and Malcolm Jenkins and those boys, to contribute to minority communities throughout this country. Didn't stop Kaepernick from protesting. Didn't stop him from saying he wouldn't protest. That's why he's not with the Seattle Seahawks. Eric Reed can't find a job. And so we recognize the fact that there was a residual impact that took place when it pertained to players protesting. Because the NFL said, we don't want that kind of distraction for next season. Well, here's my question to the NFL. If you don't want that kind of distraction with the players, why the hell are you going to tolerate that with the owner? a new owner that you're bringing in. Because even though Mr. Tepper isn't taking a knee and protesting in that regard, the vitriol that he's expressed against the president might alienate some football constituents, particularly since he's taking over ownership in the Bible Belt, Charlotte, North Carolina. Why are you accepting that? I have no problem with Mr. Tepper. I don't know the man. He's worth $11 billion. He's buying the team for $2.2 billion. Great for him. He ain't the only one that got $2 billion to give the National Football League. So why are you bringing him in? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating that Mr. Tepper shouldn't be in. I'm simply saying it's inconsistent. His arrival as an owner with the Carolina Panthers is inconsistent with the kind of message the NFL seems to be sending to the rest of the world as it pertains to players protesting. We don't want that distraction. We don't want to be involved with that. We don't want that kind of noise for our league. When Jerry Jones talked with his Dallas Cowboys about how they wouldn't take a knee, and he created controversy by taking that position, I was told by sources within the organization that when Jerry Jones got with the players, his exact words to them were, "This is a business meeting. We ain't talking about all of this other stuff. We're going to talk about what's bad for business." I'm only asking the question, if it's bad for the business with the players, how is it not bad for business with the owner? It doesn't seem to make sense. I'm just asking, y'all. I'm just asking. Because I need somebody to explain it. If you got Mr. McNair in Houston, when Mr. McNair said we can't let the inmates run the prisons or the asylum, and everybody was in an uproar because he spoke out of turn, I was on the air saying, okay, he spoke out of turn, but shut the hell up and stop overreacting. It's a phrase that's been used all the time. Let's not act like he said something that's never used and, oh my God, how appalling it is. You want to sit up there and say it's distasteful or it's inappropriate for him to use those words? Fine. But DeAndre Hopkins acting like he wasn't going to show up to play football, I'd have dared him. I'd have dared him not to show up on Sunday and play football. I'd have dared him. I bet you that check would have been missing the next day. I promise you that. Because if I'm Mr. McNair, I would have sat up there and said, who the hell told you you have to like me or what I say in order to get a check from me? I don't recall that being a part of your contract. You better get your behind out there and play some damn football. Hell wrong with you? That's what I would have said. I'm only saying that to say, look, I'm not trying to defend McNair any more than I'm trying to defend or offend Mr. Tepper or anybody else. I'm just saying the message seems inconsistent. Now, obviously, those who have the gold makes the rules, and Mr. Tepper being a billionaire, he gets to make rules, not follow them. I understand that. I'm not blaming him or casting any aspersions on him in any way. I'm only saying that if you are Donald Trump, chances are you got a strong constituency in Charlotte, North Carolina. Chances are. Heading south. You're damn right he's got some supporters. This is not Mr. Tepper taking over ownership in New York or L.A. This is Mr. Tepper taking over ownership of the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers. The Bible Belt. You don't think there's Trump supporters down there? They might not like his tactics, particularly if they're Episcopalian, or any religion for that matter, because he doesn't come across as the most religious dude in the world. But make no mistake about it. His policies, his rhetoric, oh, they don't have a problem with that. A lot of folks don't. Tens of millions of people don't. And if you're Tepper and you're on the record speaking so adamantly against this man, calling him all types of names and everything else, and you're about to take over ownership in the Bible Belt, and you're so critical of the president, I don't know how that works for you. I really don't. I really don't. And I just think that's something to consider. And that's something that you just have to pay attention to. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. 3776. See, these are the kind of things you got to think about, in my opinion. These are the kind of things that just can't be ignored. That's my personal belief. Getting back to the NBA playoffs, I told y'all that I wanted to see what people had, what response people had to my quote card on my Instagram account. I needed to see that. Because I put it on my Instagram, does LeBron James even want this anymore? My belief is that, look, LeBron James don't want 6 NBA finals on his resume. And he knows good and damn well they ain't beating the Warriors. Now, for those of you in Houston offended by that because Stephen A. don't count us out, well, damn it, I counted you out before the series began. I expect you to win a couple of games. I'm very, very proud of what I'm seeing from Houston. And I don't have any problem being in H-Town for the finals because I love the city of Houston. It is special. It's just special being here. But you're not better than the Warriors. You're just not. I think you'll win tonight, though. I really do, because I think it's your only chance. You don't win tonight, you might get swept. I'm not saying you'll get swept, but you might get swept. 18-2 over the last postseasons with Curry and Durant. Those are the Warriors. Eladio Roberts, Eladio Roberts, writes on my Instagram page. He had a 41-point triple-double and still couldn't win. His front court had 3 points. He has everything to do. He has to do everything. Without him, they are as bad as the Atlanta Hawks. The_Beige_player_1. The Beige player 1. The_Beige_player_1. He's playing for his name at this point, meaning LeBron. His teammates are too inconsistent. He's ready to go home. So evidently he might see it the way I see it. Nervy DePease. NERVEYDAPEEZ. He looks like he's already in vacation mode. Great question. The one Patrick Numa writes, last night's performance proves that he wants this. The real question is, does his supporting cast want this? I don't think J.R. Love or Hill believe they can beat the Warriors. Dave Mo 16 writes, you have no faith in LeBron at all, Stephen A. Come on, man. It ain't about LeBron. It's about the rest of this team. And if you're looking at a bunch of dudes and you think they trash compared to the competition that you're going to have to go against, don't tell me LeBron can't entertain taking a vacation early. T_Green_YNG1. Personally, don't even believe he has the passion he once had for the game. His body language says it all. It's like he's looking at other teams having fun while he suffers through what he assembled in Cleveland. I will say this. LeBron was looking like he had fun against Toronto. He looked like he had fun in Game 7 against Indiana. So I'm not going to accuse him of that. What I will say is this, and it's something that I said on First Take this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not going up against Kyrie, so it's not quite as bad. If Kyrie was here, it would be very, very bad for LeBron's legacy that Kyrie was on the court smoking you after he left you. Because in the end, the one thing that LeBron James can be absolutely indicted for, is that even though Kyrie had 2 years left on his deal and Dan Gilbert should not have traded him, and LeBron James wants to make sure everybody knows that he told Dan Gilbert not to trade him, that indeed he wanted Kyrie Irving to stay, I will say this. When you have a star like Kyrie Irving, you got to cultivate that relationship. You got to cultivate that. Particularly when you saw what happened with Shaq and Kobe. And no matter what you feel about Shaq and Kobe, here's the reality. Shaq and Kobe got to a point of no return after they won 3 championships together, not before. Not before. So when you look at that reality, listen, LeBron and Kyrie had one. And it was almost like LeBron got the championship that had evaded Cleveland for more than a half century. So, all right, my job here is done. I don't want him to leave, but damn it, if he leaves, it's cool. We'll be all right. You can't treat a Kyrie Irving like that. You got to cultivate that. You got to nurture that relationship. That brother got to mean more than you than that. He didn't. And as a result, LeBron didn't mean that much to Kyrie in the end either. So Kyrie wanted out. And now Kyrie's in a better situation because Kyrie is where he wants to be. LeBron has to find someplace he wants to be. See the difference? More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio, talking NFL, talking NBA playoffs, talking gambling in the world of sports, and new ownership with the Carolina Panthers. All that and more in a minute. Don't touch that dial. It's Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Ryan! I don't know how else to to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. And just to finish my last point about the Panthers owner, the potential owner, he's the minority owner for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He would be the majority owner, the owner for the Carolina Panthers. This is the whole thing. Bob McNair for the Houston Texans. Ladies and gentlemen, the man is 80 years old. Born in Tampa, Florida. Residence in Houston, Texas. He's 80 years old. Worth about $3.3 billion. He's a white, 80-year-old billionaire. Can somebody tell me how that's relatable to black sensitivity issues? How would he know? How would he know? See, that's the only time I got upset at DeAndre Hopkins. I respect and appreciated his level of sensitivity. But threatening not to show up to work, man, you better get your behind to work. One of the bosses says something for ESPN I don't like. Yeah, I can speak out. I can undress him. I can do all of that to address his points. What I can't do is refuse to show up to work and expect to get paid. Doesn't work that way. I'll tell you, people done lost their minds. People done lost their damn minds. I'm serious, man. Something wrong with folks. It really, really is. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Eric in Michigan, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. I had an interesting take on that Tepper ownership thing.
Yeah,
I'm not too familiar with him, so I'm going to ask you this question.
Tepper.
It seems to me that he is kind of have the opposite opinion of the Jerry Jones and the Robert Kraft. And I was wondering maybe if he's the counterbalance to them that maybe some of the owners have been waiting for.
Okay, let me respond to that. You might have a point. Because he is the counter. It definitely appears as if he is counter because most of the owners haven't spoken out against Trump, even though some people like Mr. Kraft who supported Trump have spoken out against him once he went after them. So they have spoken against him, but you could be right. It could be a counterbalance to all of that, and that is something that's plausible. My issue was not that he's a part of the ownership group, but he's a part of the ownership group. He's joining the Bible Belt. It's Charlotte, North Carolina, man. It's Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, Eric, how do you think, how many people down there do you think supported Trump?
A lot.
Well, you know, it's not like it's New York or California now. This is the South. I'm just saying. It's just something to consider. To me, if the NFL, not only do they come across as a bit hypocritical, because clearly you're ostracizing the players, but that doesn't appear to be the case with a billionaire. The flip side to it is also that, you know what? You're inviting trouble by having this man in the Bible Belt. One would surmise. I don't know this to be true, of course, but it's just a thought that came to my head that I'm sharing with y'all.
Yeah, I can understand that. I just wasn't too familiar with his point of view in politics because you brought up Kaepernick, and I hadn't heard him say anything about that. And that's kind of important to me.
No, he didn't say anything about Kaepernick, but he did attack and undress Trump. Okay? He undressed Trump in a lot of different ways, called him a lot of names and went off about Trump. That's why I brought up the whole Colin Kaepernick issue. It's not that he took a side or another that I'm aware of as it pertains to Kaepernick. It's that usually if you speak out against Trump, that's something that's going to count against you with the constituency out there. And you're going to the Bible Belt. So I don't know how that's going to work for or against him, Eric. That was my point.
I can understand that, but I think if he brings the Super Bowl home, a lot will be forgiven.
No, totally so. But listen, let's say, for example, that the Carolina Panthers win the Super Bowl next season. It's 16 games that you have to play, plus the playoff games in order to get to that point. And I'm saying in that time span, since folks know you're going to be the owner, how receptive are they going to be to you? I don't know the answer to that question. I suspect they'll still go to the games and patronize the product because they're football lovers and they love their team. All I'm saying is you got to be aware that when it's something as touchy as going after Trump, which this man has done.
Right. Well, he could nip that all in the bud and just be a little more specific and maybe set some of that fan base questions at ease.
Fair enough. Good point, Eric. Definitely possible. I appreciate the call. Thank you for it. John in Staten Island, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. What's up?
Bringing up this gambling fact, it's a great idea to be able to watch and gamble at home, but it's going to be terrible for the people when they put up their homes and all their credit cards. I'll tell you one thing: there's going to be a lot of a higher divorce rate if this goes through.
Okay, but if you are the government, local or otherwise, that ain't your problem. What your issue is that it generates dollars for the economy, and it might cost people personally, but from a fiscal perspective, it's beneficial to the local economy, and that's what you're going to pay attention to most of all.
Yes, it's also going to bring a lot more business to the bookies too. Because if I blow all my bank account, I'm gonna look for any which way possible.
Let me ask you this question, John. Let me ask you this question: do you think it's better for the local economy?
Yes. Because then you can write your taxes off of that. You get a lot of money off the taxes and stuff like that.
But what I'm saying to you is if it's beneficial for the local economy, and a local economy, by virtue of allowing gambling in their state, benefits monetarily, right? Ultimately, it's perceived that is something that will ultimately benefit the whole. And if it's going to benefit the whole in those ways, the other ways where it may not benefit folks is not something they can be concerned about because nothing's perfect. And it comes down to individual responsibility.
And they think that but they also think that it's also going to take away from as if you figure the bookies standpoint of view. Okay. They think that if they legalize it, they're going to take it away. It's not though. It's actually going to make that a lot better.
Okay, we'll see. You'll know better than me. I'm just asking a question. I didn't know the answer to that question because I'm not a gambler. But I appreciate the call. Let's go to Dre in Texas. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Dre.
What's up, Stephen A?
I'm good. What's up, man?
All right, first thing, man, let me talk about these Cavs real quick. I just believe that the Cavaliers don't have one person that can face up to the basket, beat a defender, and make a pass or score the basketball except LeBron. Okay. And that's the problem with the team. Everybody's depending on him to make the pass to score. Even when he scores the ball, he's got to hog the ball for 10 to 15 seconds to be able to get to the basket.
Stop right there, Dre. You said he hogs the ball, right? Were those your words?
I'm not saying he hogs the ball, but there's nobody else on the team that can create their own shot.
Here's my question. Jordan Clarkson was a 15-point per game scorer before he got to Cleveland.
Yep.
When you look at Rodney Hood, he was a 15 to 17-point per game scorer before he got to Cleveland. Suddenly they forgot how to play? Or is it that LeBron is so ball dominant that he compromises their play? Is that possible?
He compromises a little bit, but he's the only one making assists. They had 18 assists last night. He had 12 of them. He can't pass the ball to himself. He can't cut to the basket and get the ball. I mean, these are all things that other prolific players have done. Everybody wants to talk about Jordan and Kobe. Both of those guys were able to get the ball on spots in the floor with defenders running at him and then make a move and get by him and get to the basket. LeBron's got the ball about 20, 25 feet away from the basket all the time trying to get to the basket.
Got it. What's your second point, buddy?
Nobody else on the team can get to the basket on their own to create their own shot. J.R. Smith, Corbin.
My man, Dre. We got that message, bro. I told you. I got you. What's your second point?
Gambling. But the gambling issue,
Dre.
I believe that
Okay, go ahead. You're going gambling. Go ahead, Dre.
Okay. The gambling issue, the government is going to make money on both sides because they're already putting in security blankets for people when they get addicted to gambling. So guess what? They'll make the good money off the taxes, off of the gambling, and then they'll turn around and make money off of the rehab for people who have to go into rehab or trying to do whatever they got to do to get themselves out of gambling. So they're going to make money on both sides. It's almost the same as prescription medication. They're making money on both sides of it. That's why they're going to do it.
I got you. I appreciate the call, Dre. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Your calls to close out the show in a minute. Stephen A. Smith, live from the Western Conference Finals in Houston, Texas. Back with more in a sec.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Hey! 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Couple of things to consider for tonight's game, too. I'm live in Houston for the Western Conference Finals. I'll be covering it for ESPN and Sports Center. Pre-game, 6 o'clock Sports Center, plus post-game after the game on ESPN. Here's the deal, y'all. Do y'all know that 16 games in this regular season We're talking about a Rockets team. They were 8-8 in the regular season when allowing 50% shooting. That's 16 games. They've already allowed 50% shooting or better in 5 playoff games, and they're 2-3 in those games. Did you know that? They only averaged 9.7 turnovers per game in the first 2 rounds. They had 16 in game 1, leading to 17 Golden State points. Golden State outscored them in a fast break 18-3. 18-3. And both James Harden and Chris Paul didn't have one single assist on a 3-point shot in game 1. They better fix that, y'all. They better fix that. Back to the phones we go real quick. 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to Chris in L.A. real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Stephen A. Good talking to you. Real quick, 3 quick points. I believe the Celtics team is more balanced, not better than they are with Kyrie, because I believe that with Coach Stevens, I feel like they're harder to scout and they're harder from an X's and O's standpoint. And you said earlier that you would rather see the Celtics and the Cavs against the Warriors in the finals. I'll take it a step further than that, Stephen A. I believe that the Celtics pose a better threat to the Warriors than the Houston Rockets do. And my last point real quick, I believe the Warriors players, amongst themselves, they'll never address it to the media. I believe deep down they want to sweep the Houston Rockets, Stephen A. I'll go ahead and listen to you on the radio.
Of course they want to sweep them. Whether or not they're able to do so remains to be seen. But I get your point, and I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot. Rich in Charlotte, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Rich, talk to me.
Hey, Stephen, long-time New Yorker. I lived in the Charlotte area for 20 years. It's not the Bible Belt anymore. Charlotte area is one of the most liberal areas in North Carolina now.
Okay.
Matter of fact, today all the schools are closed because the teachers are marching on Raleigh to get wage increases and protection. It's not the Bible Belt anymore. Tepper will be fine just here.
Okay. Listen. You would know better than me, Rich. I'm not about to question that because you're living down there. You hear me, Rich?
You hear me, Rich? What was that? I'm sorry.
I said you're not. I said I'm not about to question you on that. You're living down there. I'm not.
Yeah,
I can tell you what I was told, but I don't know. I don't know. I love Charlotte. I personally love Charlotte, but it's changed a lot. You're saying it's changed that much?
It has. I mean, if you look in like the Lake Norman area, there's more New Yorkers that live in this area than anywhere in North Carolina.
I got you. I appreciate the call, Rich. Thanks for the education, buddy. Thank you so much. Call back tomorrow when we've got more time. Cameron in Indiana, you're live with Stephen A. You only got about 40 seconds. Go ahead. Cameron in Indiana, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, buddy.
I want to bring up Pacers would be a better opponent for Golden State than Cleveland, like Boston would be. 2, series is basically over. Golden State's going to win the whole thing. No one can make them not rest. 3, the only reason that no one wants Donald Trump in the league is because of the monopoly of the dynasty he'd be able to create. Politics aside, no matter what happens, the money you get for playing for Donald Trump, no one would refuse it.
That's
what we all know.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate the call. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting ready to get on out of here. I'm heading over for the coverage for the Western Conference Finals. Game 2 tonight, live from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. The Houston Rockets are in a must-win situation. I'm not saying it's definitive, but if Houston loses tonight's game, I think it's possible they may get swept. And I refuse to believe that's going to happen to James Harden and Chris Paul, CP3. I think Chris Paul has to take over the coaching on the court and do what's best. And I think that Houston will prevail tonight in Game 2. I didn't say Game 3. But for tonight, I'm going with Houston. Talk to you on 22 hours. Peace and love.
Is this a dadgum joke? The Mavericks dropped 2 slots in the NBA draft lottery. My NBA mock draft right after Stephen A. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.